Welcome to our Sunday morning broadcast. Listen, we are excited that you decided to tune in with us today. If you're on Facebook or on YouTube, if you could please do us a favor and like and share and also invite people to this discussion. We're going to have an extremely great discussion this morning, as well as a message that will follow right after. And today we're going to be doing a round table on the worth of a woman. And so I have a lot of great women here who are surrounding me, and so I'm looking forward to the dialogue and the discussion, and I'm looking forward to learning as much as I can. So before we get started, if you could all please join me in a word of prayer, I sure would appreciate it. Our God in heaven, we thank you for allowing us to be here this morning. I thank you so much for giving us your wisdom, giving us your grace and your love and your kindness. Father, I lift up all of the women who are listening, as well as all of the women who are here participating in this conversation. Lord, I pray that you would open our ears, both men and women, and allow us to hear from the women that you have put in our lives so that we can learn and know how to serve and love them better. Father, I thank you, I love you, I honor you, and I bless you. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen. Listen, before we get started, I just wanted to kind of give you the little background of what we're doing today. We're going to have an amazing discussion about the worth of a woman. This is a part of our Upside Down Kingdom series. I did, if you recall, a couple of weeks where we dealt with men in the kingdom. And so what we're doing now is a section called Women in the Kingdom. And I started it off a couple of weeks ago with a message called The Worth of a Woman. And it was my attempt to go back to God's original idea and intent of what he designed, of how he designed woman, how he wanted her to understand herself, how he wanted her to understand herself in relation to her partner, the man that he created for her, which was Adam, and I wanted women to feel uplifted. I wanted them to feel proud to be a woman. Not just like a human kind of arrogant pride, but a godly kind of pride, taking inventory that God has made me a certain way, and I'm not an accident. God has made me a certain way, and I'm here on purpose to accomplish a specific task. So, ladies, that's what I was trying to do, and I hope I was able to do that. And so my question for you guys is, when you listen to the message, did it kind of lift you up? Did it help you? Did it inspire you? Did it make you feel like, you know what, like I'm kind of proud to I'm happy I'm a woman, right? Did it do that for you is my question.
It did for me. Honestly, it made me feel much more valuable. And within that, I want to say just hour of that conversation, it kind of negated every negative thing that's happened to me within the last year. Wow. Just from that one sermon.
Really?
I think for me, it was more of a wake up. We get so caught up in our everyday, and we're doing things on automatic. You hear someone, give you a compliment on what you're doing and this and that. And for me, in my mind, it's always, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I always minimized myself, as a woman. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But hearing, listening to the series, it kind of made me, sit up in my seat a little bit taller and straighten up. And it was like, you know what? Yes, I am worthy, and I have to remind myself and instill it in myself to say that and believe it and not think and not shy away from it when you hear it. And I've done that for so long. So if anything, it was a reminder and very empowering and emotional at the same time, because I feel I'm worth it to a certain extent. And hearing that, it was a reminder that, yes, I am. So I appreciated that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, for me, it really made me feel important, and it made me realize the importance of who I am. Not necessarily just as a woman, but as in all the roles that I carry and all of the things that I do. It's like he chose me. He intended for me to be. And so he did all that he did to ensure that I was crafted and wonderfully made. And he thought of me. And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, he chose me. He loved me. He valued me. It really made me feel really, really good. And like you said, it made me sit up a little taller and say, you know, yes, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. He made me because he loved me and he cared about me. And when you were talking about it in the sermon, how last week or a couple weeks ago, about how the tailor, you know, how he does all the measurements and it's exact, and no one can come behind and wear that same suit because that was for you. So
Right.
Cheryl Harges Holmes, this was for you, you know, and I made you. And when I thought about you, this is what I wanted for you. And it just made me feel so much worthy, so worthy. And thank you.
Awesome. So Shakay, you said that it made you kind of sit up a little bit in your seat, but then you followed up and then you said because you tend to downplay yourself. That's therein, and it kind of ties in with what Karjani said, right? Like she said that it got rid of all of the negative stuff based upon stuff that happened to her, like within the last year. I think you said the last year or something like that. So my question is, like, is that a normal thing? Like, do you guys normally downplay yourselves? And is that a struggle? Right? And where does that come from? Is that internal? Is it because of things that happen? Like, help me understand.
I think for me, it's not knowing the value within myself. Because when you don't value yourself and you don't see yourself as worthy, you look for that in other people. So when someone, has you and then they decide to kind of just tarnish you or throw you away, you're like, oh, well, what's wrong with me? And that's something that I had to learn, to find that value within myself and find it within God. So in the past, I have downplayed myself, or like when somebody says, oh, you're a really good mother, like Shakay said, it's kind of like, this is what I'm supposed to do. When at the end of the day, it is what we're supposed to do, but everybody doesn't do it. And everybody doesn't do it well. And everybody doesn't do it gracefully.
Yeah.
So it made me realize that although this is my job, I do it well. And I should take the time to recognize myself and, give myself a pat on the back, because at the end of the day, everybody in the world can tell me I'm doing a good job. But if I don't acknowledge that for myself, at the end of the day, when it comes to just me and me at night, it means nothing.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think for myself, it's, it's experiences. It's, from whether how you were raised, things that you were exposed to, and, just even my mindset early on in age, like, okay, when I grow up, I'm going to be better than my circumstances, and I'm going to work hard, and, I'm just going to do what I need to do. So that was the mindset, and so I'm working, I'm doing all that I'm supposed to be doing, and that's how I looked at it. But through that, I've experienced, heartache and disappointments, and but I kept going because this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. So along the way, when you hear you're doing great, or, you raised your kids right, and I'm just thinking like, what do you mean? This is what I'm supposed to do. Or when I started my business, oh, you're doing this. And it's like, I'm doing it because this is what I like to do. And it was hard to accept compliments. And to this day, it's still difficult for me to do that, because I didn't see myself in a space where, you know, I am worthy, I am important, but I have been sensitive to having my feelings hurt and feeling being taken for granted or taken advantage of, and so those things piling on like that, it's like, wow, I don't, you know, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but it still hurts, but I got to keep going. But then you hear, oh, you're doing a great job, and it's like, I don't want to hear that, because I still have to keep moving. I still have to keep going. But there's times where, you know, to go get something as simple as my nails done, I would feel like I am stealing time because I'm supposed to be doing something else.
Wow.
You know, so when you hear that message, it's, you know, you sit back and you think, and it's like, you know what? Yes, I feel like I'm supposed to feel like that. And yes, I have accomplished many things, but even as I'm hearing it, I'm still feeling like, you know, so it's a struggle. It made me feel good. It is empowering, but it's still an internal struggle to know and understand and accept my worth.
Wow. Wow.
And I would say that, especially for us here in America, typically as women and as Black women, there's so many things that are said about us that aren't even true. There's some things that should be a compliment that is turned into something negative. I remember a scenario where someone said, make sure you don't come across like an angry Black woman. I said, well, I'm angry, I'm Black, and I'm a woman. And it was about my child, so why shouldn't I come across that way? Why am I not entitled to have those emotions because I'm a Black woman? Another term that I prefer not to be called is a strong Black woman. But that's actually, those words are beautiful, strong Black woman. But people have turned that into a curse.
Yes.
Oh, here comes another one of those strong Black women. As Black women, some of the greatest things that we do are twisted intentionally as part of the system to make us look bad. And then when you talked about, like when you said like when I listened, I sat up. You know, I am woman, hear me roar. But another thing that makes it really easy not to feel great as a woman is bad religion. So from when we're talking about theology, I've heard many pastors preach about women, and when I'm pointing to was my notes about Genesis 1, Genesis 2, Genesis 3, and the sermon that you taught. I have heard so many pastors preach things that didn't say what you said, that said something different. I've been in church scenarios where, from my opinion, it felt like women were second-class citizens. I've been in church scenarios where it didn't feel good to be a woman, whether in leadership, whether in service, whether as a member. So I think that there's so much, before we get into our own self-doubt that we carry, there's so much that's spoken ill of us for doing good things, but for being Black women. So I think that to hear that sermon, I have some real questions that I want to ask if other women caught on or felt like I did, but like I was calling folks. Did you see it? Did you hear what he said? Like, I need you to hear this, because as a woman, often people will say the Black woman is one of the least protected human beings on the planet. So first of all, that sermon protected us. It revered us. It lifted us up. And then it had the audacity to be done by a man who then also instructed other men to revere us and lift us up. And then it started talking about power structure and different things. And it spoke, not though a man said it, It spoke about what God said about us. So that was huge. It was a reminder of like, this wasn't my pastor think we were all that. It was God said, and let me tell you in what scripture, and then let me tell you the next scripture, and then let me tell you the next scripture, and then jump over here to this scripture and go back to this scripture, and so that we're clear. God created you to be a helper. And let me tell you how many times God is listed as being a helper, which means what? Being a helper is good. It was good stuff.
Awesome.
And then on top of that, he didn't think of me second. He thought of me at the same time he thought of us. So he didn't think I wasn't an afterthought.
Right.
I came intentionally at the beginning.
Yes. I have a question. There's a part where I have so many questions. We're not going to be able to get through all my questions because when I say I was literally calling people going, "Did you hear the sermon?" One of the things that Pastor said, he mentioned that woman is man's equal opposite. And when he said that, he started talking about what God's intent was with power within the family, how he expected a man to lead, how he expected a woman to be included. What were your thoughts on that we are man's equal opposite? What are your thoughts?
I just thought of in the role, I just take it from my household, the equal opposites. Daddy is the head, he's the provider, he's the lay down the law, these are the things that needs to be done. And mommy is to come behind and support and make sure that is encouraging the things that daddy has said. Because sometimes daddy can be strong in delivery, but mom's to come behind and to calm it down and bring it and make it so that it's received. And so when you say opposite, equal, it's like, yeah, because we're saying the same thing. We're not against one another. I'm validating what he's saying, and we're speaking one thing because we are of one mind at this time. Now we are one. We're not two. We're just two saying the same thing differently. One saying it maybe a little softer so that it's better received or taken or whatever, but we're saying the same thing.
I wonder if it's interpreted differently between a man and a woman. We know that we are opposites, and we should be equal, husband and wife, and we're here to support each other. But is it always fair across the board? And is it, oh no, I'm going to interpret it this way because of this situation or that situation? I agree with what was said, but it doesn't always turn out that way. And then that's when we have the egos and insecurities that come into play. Yeah, it's kind of a fine line sometimes, and with that, that's where you sometimes question, or that could be, part of the root of your worth as a woman. How is my husband or my significant other interpreting that? And, or how am I interpreting that towards my husband? But when it comes to a woman, whether it comes down to the finances, to the children, anything that comes up, you want to feel that you're just as valued. And I think how things may have been from, let's say 20, 30, 40 years ago, and how the structure was until now, it's more of women, and I will say me. I want a voice. I want to be heard. I want to be valued. I want to be respected, and when some of those things kind of fall to the wayside, I think that's just kind of another thing that chips at, am I being valued? you know, and, you know, someone like me who I explained, you know, earlier about, you know, with that struggle, or I'm doing just what I'm supposed to do and I'm not feeling valued, you know, just period, whether it's in the household or outside the household. It's, you want to feel that all the time, and you want to feel it from the person that's closest to you, because that is where you look to for your strength and your support. So I feel that it needs to, or it should be understood from both in the household or, you know, in a relationship, understanding what we all do as women and how we contribute and how we make it happen. And, you know, when there's things that come up, or let's just say, you know, I'm working and my husband's at home, and so he's there with the kids, and, you know, or I'll take off to a tournament with one of the kids, and I come back and he's like, you know what? I don't know how you did all of this. And, you know, you got the kids up on Zoom, you know, made lunch, made dinner, clean up practices and all that, and still got the kids to bed. I see what you mean, you know, and that validation, you know, of course, not above God or anything like that, but that validation right there is so important to us women. And that is something that will help make us sit up even straighter, because you have it right there. You know, you have someone that sees your value, you know, on a consistent basis. You know, there may be some times fall off, but to see that and to hold you up to that standard and have the expectations of others, your children or whoever, with those same values towards you, I think that helps with the contribution to us being validated. But yeah, it just, like you say, it's the saying about, you know, kids, you know, it starts from the home. I think with us, it's the same.
Yeah. So let me ask this question. Do you guys feel that your husbands or significant others, men in general, do you feel that we understand or appreciate you the way you should be appreciated? I know, I just opened up. Listen, if we go, let's go there. Bow. Just
You know what?
listen. And that's why I gave categories, because I said your husbands, and then I was like, wait. Significant others, wait. Men in general. That way, if you say whatever you say, you don't have to go home to somebody and say, why was you talking about me at church?
But when you said it, when I looked at each face, I wish I could have seen the thought bubbles. Like the faces were so, I was like, oh, please just say what you're thinking. Just say exactly that. How about you, Burgundy?
No. And I don't even think it's as exclusive to just male, female. I think even, you know, it can come from children or your girlfriends or, you know, your parents or whatever the case is. I think that part of it when it comes to male, female is the conditioning that society has done. A woman's worth right now is her anatomy, how great she is in bed. It doesn't have a lot of substance.
Right.
So when you then engage with a woman who isn't leading with what society says is valuable, it's almost like a foreign concept. And most of the time, I have experienced things that are foreign create a very interesting dynamic because you don't quite understand it, so you don't know what to do with it, so oftentimes it's mishandled. So no, I don't think that we are valued, and I don't think it's as isolated to just male-female. I think there is an undervalued identity associated with the black woman universally.
So from society down.
From society down, yes.
Wow.
You know, it's seems like I'm from another world, you know. I know I'm older, but I think I've always felt valued. It came from my grandmother, my mom, and actually my dad too. Things in my life growing up wasn't perfect. We didn't have the perfect family, but I had strong people in my life. My grandmother she was really a strong woman. And my mom was super strong. I also grew up in a home where my grandfather died early. And so he wasn't there for a long time. My father and mom was off and on, but he wasn't a constant in my life, but he was there most of the time. Like I said, they break up, go back together. But I also was brought up with my grandmother and mom. They had, even though the men wasn't there in the family all the time, they respected the man. They respected the man as head of the household. They respected the man as a godly man. My mother and my father was separated for 20 years before they got a divorce. But when my father would come to see us, it was like he had never left the house. He was still the man. I never did hear my mom talk or say anything or belittle my father. And my grandmother didn't do that either. So my idea of marriage was, or is different, I think, from the way it is now. So I grew up respecting my husband, and I think he came from the same background, so he respected me. He gave me that respect. So I never did feel, like you guys were talking about, I always felt that I was valued. And my mom and grandmother instilled that in me, that I was, along with the teaching we got from the church, because my grandmother was, and my mom was believers. So my thing is family. I adored my husband. And I was secure in letting him be the man of the house, letting him take the lead. But I also knew that, or I also could see and feel that in certain areas of the marriage, you'll find that one partner is strong in other areas than the other. So he was comfortable in letting me take the lead wherever that, wherever I was strong or wherever I wanted to take the lead. And I was comfortable letting him take the lead. I didn't feel I didn't feel that I wasn't valued in the relationship or as a woman. So I guess I don't have the same problems that you guys are talking about.
Can I ask you a first question? How long were you married?
Well, before 49 years.
Beautiful. And lace us up with some game, Mom. When Pastor was preaching, he talked about the difference between tailor-made and off the rack, and the
Right.
difference of someone who you're cut from that cloth. Is there anything you can share with us about how you and your husband met, the courting process, or anything that might help us to understand how to be able to get that tailor-made scenario?
We're listening.
Okay, we met in church. We
Go to church.
We met in church. Our family and his family, we all went to the same church, and we were together from the 10th grade until we graduated. We was engaged for 9 months, and we got married in 29 years. But what we did do is, I really did pray. I asked God to really let me know if this is the right one. So I guess what I did was believe that this is the right one, and we worked from there. Mm-hmm. We also, it was really funny, but we also read books together about family. When we were going to school, we would have, I'm trying to remember what the subject was. Something like, can't remember the name of it, but it was like family. You learn about family. So we read books on it. When we were engaged, I think you should let your partner know what you expect out of a marriage and expect out of him. And I'm trying to think, he didn't say what he expected out of me. What I found out was he was looking at me all the time. He would even say little things like, he would watch how I wash the dishes, and if I put the pots in the oven and not clean them, that kind of stuff, little stuff that you don't think make a difference, but I don't know, to him it made a difference. He wanted to see how clean I was. But those, we laugh at it, but those are the little things that really can help. I don't know, I want to say something that's profound, and, but I can't, you have to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And most of all, you just have to, trust in God, that He will show you which one is the one. And then you have to make up in your mind, when you choose that person, that every day I really do mean this. Every day you wake up, you, not him, but you will do the best you can to make this work. That's good. You can't think about, I'm not going to do this because, he's not doing this. No, you have to make up in your mind that this is what I want, so I'm going to do everything that I can, no matter what he does, to make it work. And that's all you can do.
That's good stuff. And if you don't mind, may I ask one more question?
Sure.
You said something that was huge to me. You said you grew up feeling validated. And you even talked about the fact that it wasn't that you had a traditional family and everyone was there. Can you share any of the things that your mom and grandma did that made you feel validated?
Well, because both of them were strong, my mom, let's see, my grandmother, when my grandfather died, my grandmother had to go to work. And you have to understand that my grandmother was a strong woman, so she taught strong. She taught you how to do, how to talk, how to act. She told me that one thing she tell us all, respect yourself, and then you demand respect from others. You have to demand that, and in demanding that is the way you carry yourself. So I got that. That's the kind of teaching. And my mother was, our whole life turned around when my mother got shot, and she was 33. And we all went to live with her because before she got shot, we were living with our father. Like I said, it was but my mom and grandmother raised all 4 of us. She was in a wheelchair. She was very strict. My mom took care of the house. She cooked. She did the laundry. She did the cleaning. All of that. And we did too, of course. But she didn't. We didn't treat her like an invalid. She didn't want us to, but we saw the way our mom lived her life after she was paralyzed. So I don't know. I guess I saw the strength in them, and then that translated to us. And I don't know. We just grew up not needing anybody to say that you're not worth this or you're not worth that.
That was good. So thank you so much.
And that was profound, Mama.
Yeah, right.
So I want to go back. I'm a comedian by nature, and when you talked about knowing your worth, there's something Pastor said that really stuck with me because it's everywhere on the internet. And what he said was, don't be dropping it like it's hot for everyone. But before we get to that part when you're dropping it like it's hot, some people are dropping it like it's hot because of self-worth, what they don't have, wanting some attention. So I want to ask you all something. In the very beginning of the sermon, Pastor tells a story of the millionaire who got beat up and robbed and got amnesia. He ends up in the hospital. He doesn't know who he is. They release him. He goes and he lays in the foyer of this building. And somebody comes out in the morning to move him and recognizes him as the owner of the building. So for this small period of time, he had amnesia, right? My question to you all is, I was thinking, I wonder if we've ever had spiritual amnesia. But whether it was spiritual amnesia or just amnesia in general, could you say that there have been times in your life that you didn't know yourself and attributed to some of your decisions and things that happened, and maybe dropping it like it's hot on the internet for everybody, as he said? But would you say that you've had that experience as well? We talked about the affirmation, but before we get to that, would you say there are experiences that have made you feel like you done lost your mind?
I have. And at the moment, in that moment, I didn't know that. But looking back, I'm like, what were you thinking? You say you love yourself, but the way you conducted yourself, the way you allowed that person to treat you, there's no way on earth you could love and value yourself. Because if you did, you wouldn't even be in their presence. You're worth so much more than that. So looking back, I can say that now there are some things that I did. There are people who I entertained because I didn't value myself, and I was looking for them to do it for me, when in actuality they were treating me worse than how I was treating myself.
That's good.
Wow.
That's good.
What was the origin of that? Had you thought through what, like, kind of what got you to that place?
Being broken
Okay.
and not taking the time to actually fix that on my own, looking for someone or some ways to mask the pain. And instead of like trying to actually make it better, like I said, I was making it worse and didn't know that until after the fact, after I was out of the situation.
Gotcha. So being broken, doing broken things, breaking more. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, you know, if I have to be transparent, you know, I was in a relationship with a married man. And I looking for and believing, you know, that he was going to give me the world. And believing it and doing whatever I can and excusing who I was and sacrificing things for him. And I didn't know why I was doing it. I didn't, other than, you know, oh, I love him. You know, I was young. And, you know, thinking back on it, of course, I'm like, what was I thinking? But, you know, in that time, and then even through it, it was, why am I doing this? Because he is providing the attention and what I thought I needed. And it really stemming back from, you know, the things that I had went through growing up, being abused, you know, sexually, mentally, emotionally. So I had, that was my route that I was taking, not understanding that it was wrong because I'm having someone tell me it is right, and giving me what I thought that I needed as far as the attention. And, you know, the thing is, oh yeah, we're going to be together, we're going to do this, you know, but I need you to do this for me, I need you, and I'm waiting, and that was not the first relationship that I've been in. And, you know, going through it and looking back at it, I was kind of like at that low point, and even with people around me saying, what are you doing? You don't even know. He loves me, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And as the years went by, I'm looking at it like, what am I doing? What am I doing to myself? Am I that low of thinking from how I look at myself to I'm going to continue on with something that is wrong? Am I going to continue on with something that it's not going anywhere and continue to go with the lie, go with the promises, and it's taken me to a dead-end road? And as you grow, as you get older, you start, you know, I started coming out of it. So yeah, it was one of those where it was just, what was I thinking? And the question is, you really wasn't. You just putting everything into somebody else's hand, and you definitely was not being led by God.
Is it difficult? Because I think if I'm looking back even at my own life, I think, and I would be willing to say this, and I don't think I need to prove it for people to believe it. All of us have been broken at different times.
Absolutely.
My question is, is it hard? And this is something that, based on what Karjani said, and then kind of piggyback on what you said, is it hard to detect when we're broken? Like, what would you say to another woman who is broken, right? So that she doesn't repeat the same stuff. and that so she's able to recognize her worth and value. Even if she's broken, she's still valuable, right? And so how do we convey that? So I know that's a lot, but yeah, all that was in my head. I had to get it out.
I laughed so hard because when you shared your story, it took me back. There was this one relationship that I had that every single person in my life did not understand it. Every single person in my life was like, they didn't like talk behind my back. They were in my face going, what are you doing? Why are you with him? Pastor included. And I just was having this conversation the other day. One of my BFFs, as a male, he was just like, what was that about? And what I'll say is first, before I answer the question, to explain it, did I know I was broken? Yes. And because of where I was broken at the time, he, for lack of a better word, made me feel better. It was selfish. It wasn't like when Mom talked about looking for her relationship, there was some criteria. They read books. They talked. There were things like that. This person, to explain it, my sister was dying. And he appeared and became my kickstand. And I mean it, without him, I don't regret it. I couldn't have stood. He became so many things. It was like the opposite of what you were talking about. Like, he was like, I could boogaloo for you. What you want me to do? I can do this. What do you need? Right. Literally. What do you need? And I think it was selfish in the sense that initially I don't know if I could tell I was broken. I know I was broken about my sister dying. But there was moments in that relationship where I was going, wait a minute, I don't deserve this kind of treatment. Wait a minute, this is not me. And then I would continue because he was taking care of the needs. He was making my life easier, so to speak. It wasn't from God. I hadn't asked God. And here's the sad part to me. I was in ministry at the time. But even being devoted to God didn't stop the fact that I was broken and I needed something. And I didn't have the patience or the wherewithal to say, let me wait on God. It was an immediate resource and source, and I accepted it. And what I would say to any woman that is broken, 9 times out of 10, we know we're broken. We may not even know the why. There's moments where enough people have said something to you that makes you go, 22 people said ... to me. Maybe I better look at that and figure out if that's true. So first of all, there's usually signs outside of ourselves. And then the next piece is a lot of times we know. And what I would say to a woman that's broken in that state is, I'll speak from personal experience, I'd rather be alone and healthy, secure, in a tight relationship with God where he's pleased with me than to stay in the former state of being broken. And the way that I came out of being broken was, I feel like literally one day God woke me up, and I tell this story. It was almost like I looked to the left of me and I just wanted to chew my arm off and slither out and get away, because it was like I became the people around me like, what are you doing? What is this? But at the time that I met him, I was asleep because I was in depression. So the other thing that I'll say to any woman, if you're going through depression, you'll hear people say, don't make permanent decisions out of a temporary situation. There's somebody there. And what I mean is your church family, your homegirl group, your book club, somebody. Exactly like somebody was saying, I think Mom was saying she prayed. What I would say is prayer is your first and best weapon. If you start praying, God's going to continually send you who you need. And here's the other thing, is what I would say, is be open. Because there are times where God will have a commercial, a TV, movie, a song, a secular song on the radio, a person, somebody might come up and put their hand on their shoulder and literally say the same thing. And there have been times where I was like, and the but doesn't matter. What I would say is, If God is speaking to you, listen.
I think to answer your question, Pastor, what I would say to any woman who is broken, it kind of goes off of what Miss Audra says about being open. I remember one night I was crying and just praying to God, and I said, Lord, I'm so broken. Just flat out like that. And I've been watching a lot of sermons. T.D. Jakes is one of my favorite. And I kid you not, maybe 30 minutes later in his sermon, he said, God has wanted me to tell you you're broken in all the right places. Literally 30 minutes after I said that right to God. So that's what I would tell any woman. You're broken in all the right places. And just because you're broken, it doesn't mean that you can't be repaired. It doesn't mean that you're not valuable. It just means that whatever has happened to you, you now can use that to help another woman. And you have a voice, you have a story. So just because you're broken doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that you'll always be broken. It just means that you have work to do. And now once you do your work, it's now your job to go work on another woman and lift her up so that we can make this a domino effect, so that we can continue to tell broken women, you don't always have to be broken. And again, it's not a bad thing to be broken. Things happen. Life happens. And it's not your fault. Like Pastor said, you're not what anyone has done to you.
Right.
But you have to take what has been done to you and you can use it for your good.
Right.
Like the Bible says, all things work together for your good. So you can choose to take that and turn it around and use it as a lesson to give someone else, or you can use it to let it break you even more, but you don't have to.
Yeah, that's big.
That's big.
You know, I just want to add to that. Sometimes we don't know what broken looks like. You know, we don't. And that was, I can say from experience, you know, you don't. You may be lost, you know that something's missing, but it's like you just can't pinpoint what it is. And it's hard to say, you know, okay, I am broken, so what do I do? Sometimes we have to really go through a fire and be brought down to our knees to say, I am broken, but we're not seeing it on the way down, you know. And that's hard. That's really hard. And then when you have, you know, when you feel you don't have anyone around that will understand, you know, you're going through this experience just with no, you know, no written book, no, there's no guidance through that. And, you know, even then, back then, you know, I was brought up through the church and everything, but it's like, I don't even know how to pray. You know, so what do I say? Or I didn't know the protocol or anything. It was just, you're going through an experience in your life, and you know, you have some sense, and it's like, okay, I know this is not all the way right, but it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And you going by, and a year goes by, I know it's going to get better, and you're still going and not realizing what you're doing to yourself, you know, mentally and emotionally, and even physically. You're still going about, like you said, you were, you know, in the church, you know, and I'm still, you know, being this mom and still have my career or business going. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but, you know, there's a part of my life that is not going right. Okay, it you know, it's not the traditional way to do things, but it's going to work itself out, you know, and so it's like sometimes, you know, it's when we don't know what broken looks like. You know, and so now looking back on it, what would I do different, or what would I tell other women, is to know and love yourself and learn to respect yourself. But again, then it comes back to, and I just had to throw this in there, how do you know what that even looks like if you've never seen it? You know, so knowing what I know now for back then, and for women, you know, like you said, piggyback on you, Miss Audra, to know your tribe and and you know the ones that have your best interests. Lean on them and trust them, because if you have that tribe, whether it's in the church or your girlfriends, you know, every group that you mentioned, and knowing that they are there for you, you know, listen. And I had a couple people, and you know, that was a little tribe, but even then it was, I hear you, but he said it's going to be better, so I'm going to roll with that. But, you know, so it's trust your people. Trust your people and trust yourself.
Yeah.
Agree with what Shaqay was saying. Like, you don't always know. And sometimes you find out as you're repeating what you endured, what you came out of or what you were in. So I don't think that you always know. I do believe that if you're weighted on the bottom where there's word, or you genuinely are planted somewhere, then at some point you will regain your conscious mind. But I believe that you can find yourself in a relationship or an engagement that does not represent your best self and be completely unaware of it, and not become aware until you are literally sharing what you went through in it. And as you repeat what you experienced is when you recognize the lack of value. Yeah.
And just I want to say, and so with that, unconsciously, whatever worth we were feeling I had at that time, we don't even realize it's going away. You know, because you are now doubting yourself. You're going into a shell, and it's like you're being taken advantage of, and it's, I'm not worthy. You know, I'm not worthy. And even then, going through that, you still don't know that you are. And like Parjani said, you know, even when you're broken, you're still worth. You still have a worth. That's and right. All broken is not bad. But when you're in it, you don't see it that way, you know, because we don't have our tools. We don't have our tools. We don't have our support or even trust ourselves to say, I'm better than this. I am worthy. We see it much later, but then you look back, because even to this day, I'll look back like, oh, what was I thinking? How could I wear it? But I don't look at it as such a bad thing now. It was a lesson. It grew me. Absolutely. It exposed myself to myself to help say, and that's what got me out of that. I'm better than this. I still have a long way to go, but I don't deserve this because I know I'm better than this. I know I am deserving of something greater. You know, it just took me a long time to get through that.
Before we move on, could you say, because I'm hearing what you're saying, in that sometimes we just don't know. Is there a simple way we could say it to someone that right now is experiencing something? Like, as you were both talking, what I thought about is something I tell my youth, which is, if you're feeling bad all the time, you need to talk to somebody. And like you said, we all have different resources. That might be a counselor, it might be your tribe, it might be a parent, it might be, even as an adult, it might be a parent, it might be your best friend. But if nothing else, if you wrote down on paper and split it in half and figured out the good and the bad, and you're feeling bad the majority of the time, whether you're broken or not, it's a situation, whether it be a relationship a job, anything. If you're feeling bad all the time, that's probably a good marker for you to stop and figure out, how do I get somebody else's eye on this? Because maybe you don't know you're broken, but if you know you're being taken. When you get alone, there's sometimes you might be out and about or with other people, but when you get alone, you know when something's making you feel bad. You may not be able to identify it or put a name to it, but if you're feeling bad about something a lot, what I would say is go find some sort of resource. Anybody else?
I agree. And sometimes those resources come from places you would never even expect. Sometimes it comes to you, you know. Perfect example, I had a moment just yesterday, and I was at work, and I had to excuse myself, go in a room, and I had to have a moment. And who was there? Fallon. And all she could do was just put her arms around me, and she said to me in my ear, "You are worthy." And when she said that, I calmed down. And she prayed over me, and she did not let me go. And just in that moment, I felt it. I felt her support. I felt her sisterhood. I felt her love. I felt her concern. I felt it all. And she just prayed in my ear, and she kept telling me, "You are worthy, and I love you, and you're going to get through this." And I believed her. I believed her. And you don't know where and when it's going to come from, but those reminders, wherever they are, and when it's being told to you, believe it. Believe it. Because people see your worth. We have to see it too.
Does it help to have constant reminders of things? And I'm not asking it from the standpoint of being like being needy, or not asking it from the standpoint of I just like somebody needs to validate me every day. I'm not saying it that way. I'm saying it from the standpoint of, and again, I'm thinking of it from a male standpoint. Men, in terms of how we think often, is sometimes we can be kind of lax on the appreciation and,
Absolutely, yes.
saying that.
Go on.
Okay, all right, listen. And so I'm just, I'm trying to help the brothers, because, so again, we could be kind of lax on it, and I think it's because for a lot of us, it's not that we're not appreciative, but we show appreciation different, and we may not be showing it in the way that you need it. And so my question is, like, so if you're talking to your significant other, how would you like for that appreciation to come? Or would that be individual per person, you think? Or are there some general things that you think you would say, nah, we like this, right? As women, we tend to like this, or we tend to like that. What would you say?
I would say, and like I was saying, I don't want accolades. I don't want to say, babe, you're doing a great job. I don't want to hear all that. But I think every once in a while, and it's not more so when I am doing something great, it's when I'm maybe going through something. And even though my husband knows that I'm going through something, but to hear him say, "I'm sorry that you're feeling this way. Please let me know," or "I'm here for you if you need me," for anything or tell me what you want me to do. That right there, it goes a long way because I know that he sees me. Even though he sees me, but it's more of, all right, she going through something, so let me just go on and sit over here. It's acknowledging it, and it lets me know that he cares. Even though I know he does, but to say it, whether it's anything, it helps. It does help. It
Gotcha.
does help. It knows that, okay, he knows that I'm not, even though I am Superwoman, but, you know, I am still human. I have feelings, and I would want to hear that he is there. So I think, or just, you know, even through the pandemic, it's, you know, I would see on Facebook sometimes doing a sister check-in, or I'm checking on my strong sisters, tap in, you know, I welcome that.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of times people think strong people, in particular strong black women, they think we got it together. And they don't check on us. You know, and so even if I get a phone call or text, hey girl, hey, checking on you, I'm like, oh, you know what, cool, thank you. Thank you. I'm good now. Thank you.
Gotcha.
You know?
Gotcha.
Because a lot of times we're going through, but we're that strong source for everybody else. But a lot of times we don't get that back. It's never reciprocated. So while I'm making sure that everything's taken care of at home, I'm making sure that everybody else is okay, honey and the kids and work and friends and anybody I see on the street, and I'm throwing, you know, and I'm a hugger, and you know I so the pandemic is throwing me off. Anyway, it's a whole nother story. But you know, so I mean, I'm always there, you know, and I'm always making sure everybody else is okay. Sometimes it's like, do anybody see that I just need? I mean, can somebody see that maybe I was okay yesterday? Maybe I was okay the day before, but today, this day,
Right.
you know, I can remember before the pandemic, so it had to be about 3 years ago or so, I was going through the process of being there, you know, and always there, doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, taking care of everything, making sure everything was good. And not to say my husband wasn't there and wasn't, you know, helping and doing his part, because he was. But it just, everything. And just one day, I'll never forget, it was a Saturday, I shut down. Everything. I mean, everything shut down. I just went in my bed and wept. I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk. He's asking me, my husband asked me, what's going on? You're okay? And he's on his way out to work, and he really can't be late, you know. And kids coming, are you okay, mommy? What's going on? But all I could do was cry. I couldn't speak. In my head, God, I'm trying to pray. God, I'm trying. But I couldn't. And it was just like, what's going on? You know, what happened? Father, talk to me. You know, where am I? You know, who am I? You know, what's going on? I want to talk. I need to open my mouth and tell them what's wrong. They need to help me right now. But I couldn't. And I think I was in that state for about a good hour or two. And finally pushed through and was able to pray myself out and was able to start speaking and talking to God, and the tears just kept coming. And it's like I couldn't stop crying. They never stopped. I mean, even though I was able to now speak and verbalize, I could only say a couple of things y'all don't appreciate. I couldn't say much more. You know, I need y'all to help me appreciate what I do. I mean, I do all of this, and nobody understands what all I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do all of this for you, but nobody reciprocates. I don't feel the reciprocation. And it wasn't until that moment, and I had to pray myself through it. Roger later called, and while when he was at work, said, "I'm so sorry, I had to leave. I had to get to work," but he prayed and talked to me or whatever, and everything was fine. We talked about it later on that night, but it's just that moment. It's like you keep going, and it's like, I do for you, but I don't think you see what I do for you. And so what are you doing for me? You know, and sometimes you don't see, and sometimes you don't feel it, but so you don't know that. So in the same sense, it's like that moment of, I don't know if I'm broken. I don't know if I'm not valued. I don't know if, I just don't know. Where's my sense of worth? I'm not sure if I'm understanding my state. Am I just going? Am I just doing things just because this is what I do? This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm a mama, I'm a wife, I'm an employee, I'm a friend, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. I'm just doing as things that I'm supposed to do. But when do I get back?
Right.
And who do I talk to tell that I feel this way? And how do I voice that I'm feeling this way? And when I'm telling you guys, do you really hear me? Because when I'm talking to you, do you really hear me? So should I even say it? Why? Because I don't really think you hear me. So now maybe I'll just, so maybe that's the reason why I'm internalizing all of this stuff, and then it's all there, and then maybe that's the reason why I'm shut down. Okay, so who do I talk to?
Right.
And it goes back to that, But I thank God, because he is awesome. And he loved me through my bad. He loved me through my good. He loves me in spite of me.
Yeah.
And I thank him, and I truly thank God for my relationship with him. And I thank God for the ministry. I came from a ministry where God was truly working in my life and truly speaking through me. And I left leaving that church and coming here with welcome arms and being fed again. I don't feel like I've dropped. I feel like I'm just continuing that legacy and learning even more. And I'm just thankful for the space and the ability to feel worthy and to understand my worth. And God loves me. He loved me. He thought of me. He didn't think of me second. I wasn't an afterthought.
Yeah.
He loved me. And he created me because he loved me.
Yeah. So that raises another thing for me. And there's a couple things, and you guys are sparking things that's in my head. So I kind of want to get it out. Just give me a few seconds. In the message, one of the things that I talked about was when God created Eve, it was at a particular time, right? And it was after he had created Adam, after he had created the animals, after Adam had done, the naming of the animals, all those kinds of things. And then God says in Genesis 2:18, it is not good for the man to be alone, right? And that was the first time you hear not good in the text. And so what God does is he creates woman to fix that problem. She was created as a solution, right? And so I've said that over the years to women, and women typically will feel good when they hear that. But just listening to you guys, I'm wondering, is being a solution a little bit of a curse too? Right? And so, and then it makes me double back and ask this question, just based on what Cheryl was saying. And again, just being a counselor in my head and thinking through, okay, well, what is this? Here's my question, and then also listening to my mom over the years, right? And it makes me ask this question. Do women find it difficult to self-care?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. To self-care, right? And really at a level kind of divorce yourself, right? Strong word, but kind of divorce yourself from the responsibility of the family, from the responsibility of the kids, from the responsibility of the household, for the purpose of self-care, so that you can continue to be the solution. Right? Is my question.
I think that's the hardest for us to do, is to take care of oneself. For me, it was, or is, still is.
Yeah. And why is that? I guess why is that a hard thing for women? Why do you guys find that hard to do?
Caring for, we are, yes, by nature, and because of because of the role of as a nurturer and nurturer, that's what we do. We're there to make sure that the kids are eating, we're making sure the husband's eating, we're making sure the house is clean, we're making sure this is done, we're making sure. I'm not worried about me. And I'll just quickly, you go out with the intent to go buy yourself something. I need some clothes, or I need a pair of shoes. And then you get into the store and you might not see something that you really want, or you may see something and you say, and then you see, or you walk past something real quick and it's for the kids or your husband or somebody else, and you go to that.
Yep.
And what you needed goes by the wayside. And true, just recently I was in the store with my son and his godparents. And he needed some clothes because he just, from December to March, he shot up. I mean, I literally just bought this boy clothes in December because we were going out we were getting ready to go away on a trip, right?
Yeah.
So I just bought him some new clothes, and he's already, they're short. I mean, he's flooding. I'm like, okay, boy, I'm glad you got high tops. But I was asking him which pair of pants do he want. He said, well, I want both. I said, well, I don't got it for both. So you can get this pair because I had me a pair of shoes in basket because I needed a pair of shoes to go with something I needed. And so I want both. And I was like, put them back because we ain't getting it. Because I'm not going to, I need, and we got, between the time when, because this argument was in the line. We brought it all the way to the line still. So, where you put the stuff, you just think, okay, we're going to sit it right here because I'm not buying that. Then we're next in line. Get them. And I put my shoes down because he needs clothes. And so it's like, mommy took the back seat to make sure that he was taken care of. And so fast forward to Mother's Day, I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And all this stuff. And I was like, what? I want a pedicure and a manicure. It just hit me that night, and I called Roger. That's what I want, a manicure and a pedicure. So we all on the line trying to figure out where can I go the next day and get it done and all this other stuff. So I get up, and I go that morning to get it done that Saturday, and in a hurry, I messed my blessing up, but at any rate, it's a whole nother story. But I ended up getting just a pedicure instead of getting a pedicure and a manicure. That's why I say, so my impatience. I didn't want to wait till 3 o'clock. I want it now, so I went somewhere else. And ended up paying more. So since I was paying more than what I was going to pay there, I didn't get to get both. I got only one. Because I paid for more than what I was going to pay for both. For the one. But at any rate. But I said, you know what? You need to take care of you. And this wasn't a gift from Roger. This was a gift from Cheryl to Cheryl.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what I need to stop not taking care of me. I need to start remembering and revering me. And that was before the message. So then I get the message and I'm like, yeah, because I need to. I'm important.
Exactly.
And, so I can truly appreciate the message.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, Pastor, that so many bros are going to listen and they're going to make changes, and so many bros are going to be so mad at you because we now understand we are women. Hear us roar.
Listen, that's all right. That's all right. Bert, you look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I think we forget who we were before children and before marriage, and it's a very challenging journey to remember her. And I think that we forget to even be girlfriends to ourselves. Like, we will tell the women that we love and adore amazing things about them, and we will tell them, I've told my girlfriends, you need to rest, and I'm on fumes, So I think that it's challenging because once you do become a wife and a mother, the nurturer in you forgets about you. And then trying to reclaim that identity is a very challenging process. I am now divorced, and my children go with their father every other weekend. And even when they're gone, the time is spent preparing for their return versus making sure I'm good. And it is a journey trying to remember that. Like, I have a therapist who has to remind me, like, to schedule time for me. And you would think that that's so simple, but again, you become so conditioned on making sure all the needs are met for your home that you forget that before you were a mother and before you were a wife, you were a person. And so I think that that's why it's challenging. And then somebody else brought it up. You feel like anytime you do anything for yourself is something else that you could have been doing for the time to get your family in a better position. So you start to think in the sense of a unit. Every move you make, you have every member of your family in mind, except you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to share this little, very quick, funny, and it's about, the self-care and how hard it is. I wanted to go get a massage, and I was off work early, and if I tell my husband I'm off work at a certain time, he gonna fill my time for me. So it's like, okay, let me go. I can make this massage on the go. And when I was done, saw that he had called, and I was like, hey, what's going on? He's like, oh, it was something about having to pick up the kids or something. I said, okay, well, he's like, what are you doing? I felt like I guess I was kind of lying. I'm like, well, I'm just finishing up, and, okay, that's fine, I'll meet you. And like 5 minutes later, he was like, you really at the shop? So I was just wrapping. I didn't say I was at the shop. I said I was wrapping up. Because my buddy said he saw you over there at over near on San Pablo Dam Road, and you just said you was at the shop. And so what is it? And I'm like, well, yeah, because I had to take care and run an errand, and then because I felt like I had to steal time to make time for myself. And even during that massage, I was not completely relaxed because I just had a feeling like I'm supposed to be doing something. So yes, it's extremely hard, and I went to that extreme to try to take care of myself. It is hard. It's very hard.
Yeah. I remember my mom saying years ago, and this was when my dad was sick, and then even after my dad passed away, and my mom, she kept saying that I guess what was, and you can tell it way more than me, but she kept, what stuck in my head was she kept saying that she had spent her life pouring into her family, and her family became her life. And so now my brother is married. He's in LA. He has kids. I'm married. I have kids, right? We've left the home. My dad, he ends up sick and passes away. She's caring for her mother, her grandmother, mother, sister, and then husband. And then all that comes to a halt. And then you're, who am I? Right? You remember saying that, Mama? Yeah. And so I so me and my brother, we're always trying to, tell my mom, like, okay, listen, tell us whatever you want to do and we gonna do it. Like, you want to go, where you want to go? Here's your tickets, right? And so our goal is to make sure that Mom doesn't have to think about or worry about anything, right? Do you feel that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sean is working. So that's what we try, because I do recognize the difficulty of of the self-care. So I just wanted to ask, and I appreciate you guys for sharing that.
I also wanted to add, what's interesting is now I've gotten really comfortable with self-care. My kids probably think I'm too comfortable with self-care. Because I wasn't for the longest. And it wasn't even, I didn't think of it as self-care. It's like everybody. I just thought about what does my family need. And being the sole provider, my every thought was, what does my family need? And I remember one time, this is a TMI, but one of my kids said, Mommy, why do your underwear have holes, right? They were torn. And I realized they were underwear I had from when I was pregnant with my son, right? And my son was probably 10 years old. So there's some people that are going, how did you keep underwear for 10 years? I have a washing machine and I have bleach. So they weren't dirty. But it wasn't on my radar because I'm like, do you want to eat? Like, what do my underwear have to do with anything? And then I read this article, and from there, things changed. And it said that if you want your children to treat you a certain way, you have to teach them and train them how to treat you and how to take care of you for Mother's Day. So every Mother's Day, people will go, your kids get you the best gifts, and they're so expensive. How do they do that? I would give my kids the money, and I would say, I want this, I want this, I want this, or something to this, and they would go to the mall, and they would figure out, and they would come back, and they would literally, every Mother's Day, unless they didn't have it, I got what I wanted. Now, in that instance, I was able to say, I wanted this. That was it. So what I'll say now is, it goes back to, is it God's way or our way? If God tells us we should have a Sabbath, if God tells us we should have rest, there's all these things that God, like even now, the reason that I'm so adamant about my self-care is I have medical conditions. So I get regular massages. I have a trainer, I'm stretching, there's all these things I'm doing, and I believe it's from my meditation and quiet time with God, because He's instructed me to do certain things so that I can live longer and have a mobile and better life. And I almost think that, like when you mentioned it first, the first word I thought was guilty. I would always feel guilty to do anything. Now, Mother's Day I didn't, that's because I read the article. But for anything else, I would feel like, well, what do they need? I would literally, there's times when my kids would say, go buy yourself something. Not Mother's Day, when they got older and had money. Go buy yourself something. And I would go to buy me something, and I would come back with stuff for them. So I don't even know if it's maybe just learned behavior, but what I would say is I believe it's absolutely godly for us to take care of ourselves, like they talk about on the airplane, so that we are who God. I've noticed that the more self-care I give myself, the more creative I am, the better I don't sleep enough. That's one area that I'm going to have to work on. I just don't sleep enough. But other than that, I'm working really hard to be obedient to taking care of myself so I could do whatever ministry God has for me to do. So I think we're naturally guilty.
Yeah. So, listen, I want to thank you guys for coming out and having the discussion with us. Here's my question, my last question. What do you like to do?
For fun?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember that.
Okay.
I did it.
What do you like to do?
Outside of spending time with my family. I don't know.
What do you like to do?
I too, like you all, it's been so long since that's been when somebody asked me, what do you want to do? What do you want to do for your birthday? Crickets. You know, I really don't.
I got you.
I just like, I don't know.
Got you.
I remember.
Okay.
I like to travel.
Nice.
And
Okay.
I like to garden.
Okay. 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 Mama, what do you like to do?
Gosh, family, grandkids. That's it. Oh, you know, I really do have a lot of things I like to do. I like to work in the yard, but I don't. I like to crochet, but I don't. Let's see, that's about it.
Okay.
Can't think of the others.
I got you.
My memory back, but-
I would like some of that.
That's
too.
what I would like to do. Got
I
you.
would like that.
Karjani, what do you like to do?
I like to sing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So here's what I'm gonna do. Okay. What do you like to do?
I like to eat, and I'm enjoying this new thing called massage.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give each one of you $100 to only spend on you. You can't spend it on you can't spend it on anybody else. You cannot give it to anybody else. You cannot pay a bill with it. You have to spend it on you.
Is this real money or spiritual money? Like, it doesn't feel real. Everybody's like waiting for I'm waiting for the rest of.
It's real money. And so each one of you, and again, yeah, I'm going to give you $100, and you have to spend it on you.
Putting it back in the church's spending money.
Nope. Nope. Church don't want it.
On you, Mom. On you.
No, church don't want it. You can tithe off of it. You can give $10 if you want. That'll be the only thing. But yeah, other than that, no. Yeah, I want you to spend it on you, just as an uncomfortable exercise to self-care, right? As a help to remember to self-care. And I know all y'all rich, y'all don't need it, but it's what I want to do for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, listen. We will see you next week. Trust me, you do not want to miss next week. It's going to be phenomenal. All right? Listen, I will talk to you soon. God bless you. I love you. Bye-bye.
I lift my hands in total adoration unto you. You reign on the throne, for you are God and God alone. Because of you, my cloudy days, they're gone. I can sing to you this song. I just want to say that love you more than anything.